Thanks everyone for joining today. Sadly, another global conflict has burst on the scene with heartbreaking scenes of death and destruction. War is as old as time, but that does nothing to lessen the horror of its ravages. War is a destroyer of security, personal security, food security, property security, economic security, and our vision for a secure future that we all crave. I often speak of energy as the enabler of all human progress. It is, but it is also essential to satisfy our base needs, like security in all forms. Now that the spotlight is again on the United States, the most promising source of security for the world, how are we doing? We promptly sprung to action on the military, diplomatic, and humanitarian fronts. But what about the energy front that underpins everything? I would posit that we are not shining in this area, the area critical to our long-term future. 2 quarters ago, I spoke about government policies that are raising up our electricity prices whilst also destabilizing our electricity grids. Hence, we are not doing well in the power grid area. While electricity grids are arguably the most important networks in the world, in total, they deliver only 20% of global energy. What about the total energy pie? Oil and gas today represent a record high of just below 70% of total U.S. primary energy consumption. Fortunately, we are today the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas. Are we maximizing these resources to uplift Americans and provide security to our citizens and our allies? We have blocked the completion of large pipelines already under construction. We have dramatically reduced the granting of leases and permits on federal lands. We drained half our strategic petroleum reserves, not in a crisis, but simply to short-term lower gasoline prices. We have used a myriad of regulatory bodies to impede the funding and development of our oil and gas resources, having the obvious and presumably intended impact of reducing U.S. oil and gas production at the margin and therefore raising prices to consumers and businesses. But there is no stopping the rise in demand for oil and natural gas, as everyone, not just Americans, wants to raise their standard of living and expand the opportunities available to their children. So what is filling the gap created by suppressing American oil and gas production? Iran, predominantly. We have effectively stopped enforcing the oil export sanctions on Iran, resulting in a roughly 700,000 barrels of oil per day increase in Iranian oil exports over the last 12 months, nearly all flowing to China. The same is coming true for Venezuela. Is having more oil coming from Iran as opposed to the United States beneficial to the security of the United States and our allies? Is it economically better for our citizens and allies that this incremental oil production and related economic activity and tax revenues flow to Iran instead of the United States? Is it better for air quality and greenhouse gas emissions that these incremental barrels are produced in Iran versus the world's cleanest production practices in the United States? The answer to all is obvious. Liberty's mission is to better human lives by improving the energy system in North America and the world. We do this primarily by driving improvement and innovation in hydraulic fracturing of oil and gas wells, the dominant source of energy in the U.S. and Canada. We took an ownership stake in Fervo Energy last year to partner in bringing next-generation geothermal into our energy system. Things are going quite well there. We took a smaller stake in Natron Energy to help bring sodium-ion batteries to market as they offer distinct advantages to our energy system. After years of watching and investigating, we have recently invested $10 million in Oklo, which we view as the most promising of the small modular reactor companies. Why invest in nuclear? Because it has the energy density, reliability, and scalability required to economically meet the world's growing demands for energy. The world needs more energy, better energy. Thanks for joining us today.